Hello and welcome to Old Faithful. I'm your host, Matt Trask. Thank you to Steve and Jay and Scott. We briefly had an appearance by the magnificent Scott Gooch down here at Perfect Wave Productions, helping me and my guests look great on camera. Perfect Wave Productions, as you all remember from 2 weeks ago, live sound system support, sales, and installation. They do have a few musical instruments, a musical amplifier, and some gear for sale, but mostly live sound system support, sales, and installation. Please support my friends at Bike Hills Blend Espresso, 4 convenient locations here in Rapid City. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Matthew Trask, and thank you for your support. So, I am from a very large family. I'm the oldest of 12 kids. And apparently on special occasions and holidays and stuff, like the 35 of us are not enough people. So there'll always be like someone else wandering around. And it happens so often that you have to come up with a quick way to get through it. So I've learned when I go and I see another person, I say, hey, who are you and how did you get here? And so that happened on New Year's Eve. I saw this girl at a party at my family's house, and I just walked up and I was like, so, who are you and how did you get here? And she said, well, actually, I went to school with you. And I went, oh, okay then. Katie Olsen, it's so nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
I appreciate it so much. So you are visiting. You are quite obviously, since we went to high school together, from here.
Yes, grew up in Rapid City.
But you are visiting briefly.
Yes.
From Los Angeles, which we are definitely going to talk more about.
Yes.
But how about you tell us about you at this point, with emphasis on your musical journey.
Okay, so as you said, I grew up here in Rapid City. I have always had music in my life, always been singing. Started with the Rapid City Children's Chorus when I was in 4th grade, I believe. Did school choir, also did, school band, all of the things. After high school, I moved to Boston, went to college out there, sort of inadvertently got a degree in music.
Okay.
And lived out there in Boston for about 10 years total.
Okay.
And then moved to LA 10 years ago, and also sort of inadvertently became a professional musician.
Aha! So we have a lot of inadvertently to talk about here. But before we get to that, were either of your parents or anyone else in your family musicians or singers?
So my parents are not musicians themselves, but they're music lovers.
Okay.
So we always had music going on.
Okay.
Everything from children's music to Christian music to show tunes. And my dad is a big 70s rock fan, a lot of Steely Dan and Jethro Tull.
Everybody loves them in little 70s rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we always had that going on. My 2 brothers are also musicians. My older brother is a guitarist, very talented. And my younger brother is a drummer, and he also does audio engineering, recording, mastering, producing, all of the things.
Perfect. So, and then you mentioned you were in band. What did you play in band?
I mostly played the trumpet.
Okay.
I also played a little clarinet and a little violin.
Do we still have a trumpet or a clarinet or a violin?
So my trumpet, my little brother, when I left for college, he hopped that for drum equipment.
Oh, perfect.
I still have a clarinet, which I think might actually be the property of St. Thomas More High School.
Oh.
I don't think they've missed it. It's been 20 years at this point.
Apparently not. You ain't got a ladder there or nothing. Okay, perfect. And the violin?
Violin, I have no idea where that went.
So now on to the inadvertently. It happens often in America, but what did you think you were going to school in Boston for?
Well, I went to MIT, which is a science and technology.
Science and technology, right.
So I figured I would choose something sensible in one of those fields.
Right.
But at the end of freshman year, we had to declare a major. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, but I was like, I'm going to be taking music classes, so I'll just declare that. So I have an advisor, and we'll figure it out on the way. Well, 4 years later, there I was with a diploma that said music on it.
So, facts that we didn't know, also questions we weren't asking. Does MIT offer a music degree?
Yes.
The answer is apparently yes. I don't know when that will be a useful bit of information, but now we know.
Now you know.
So you graduate from MIT in Boston with your music degree. And then was there a moment where you were looking at it maybe with champagne and you're like, what the hell am I going to do with this?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. It's like, well, now I have a diploma.
Right.
And, back in those days, you could just have a diploma and it would be worth something. Whereas now, college degrees are not worth as much as they used to be.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I ended up getting a job with a nonprofit teen magazine, just doing office work. Because I figured, well, I got to be a responsible adult, contributing member of society,
and not starve to death.
Exactly.
Also.
Gotta pay some rent.
Right.
So I did that, for a while. And then after a couple of years, I was like, well, I really miss music. So I joined a community choir. And sort of did that.
So was this in Boston? Or
This is in Boston.
Okay,
yeah.
so we're still in Boston.
We're still in Boston.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Continue.
So I just did that for a while, just sort of casual singing.
Right.
And then when I left Boston, moved to LA, I sort of had the idea that I still had that job at the magazine. I was doing the graphic design for them at that point, so I could do that remotely. So I had the idea that I maybe try to get a job in the music industry, at a studio or
Right.
there were lots of recording, production, all sorts of things. So I thought I would do that. It never ended up happening, but what did end up happening is I went to a random church one day just to attend the service, and the person, the cantor who was leading the music, had the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard. And it turns out she's, one of the top sopranos in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
She's a big deal. And she's like, our church choir is starting back up again. If you're interested in music, please join. I was like, well, I'm interested in music.
Right, yeah.
So I will join this choir. So I joined the choir, and after a little while, she's like, oh, hey, if you want to cantor masses, I need somebody to fill in for me, and we pay you here. It's like, oh, interesting.
Wow.
I can make money off of this.
So wait, you said an important word. Mass.
Yes.
This is a Catholic.
Catholic church.
And they pay for the cantor.
Yes.
That's a sweet gig.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and as these things always are, you just meet new people and start networking. Yeah. So I had this one church gig. I got another church gig. So I was doing lots and lots of church on the weekend.
Sure.
Through that, found some other choirs to join, some of which you can get paid gigs out of.
Right.
So it's just a lot of random stuff that just kind of fell into my lap.
So going back to the beginnings here, when that girl who you described as a big deal and having the most amazing voice you've ever heard.
Yes.
When she told you that sometimes she needed a fill-in and that you could do it and you applied, you got the gig. Do you remember that first mass feeling unworthy to sing in her place?
I was definitely very nervous, which is, it's a weird thing because I had been singing at church since I was 12 years old.
Right.
So this was very old hat for me.
Right.
But just to stand up there, I hadn't done it in a while.
Right.
It was a little intimidating.
Was the congregation much bigger than they are here?
No. Not
about the same size.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then we started branching out, getting more and more services. Were they all Catholic, or were pretty much whoever, whatever?
It was mostly Catholic, but occasionally random other.
Okay.
As they came along.
Well, questions I shouldn't ask. Were there any denominations you refused to sing?
No. There were a couple where, when you're standing up there, you try to be respectful of what's going on. And then you start thinking, I can't say this. So you just stand there politely.
Right. So, do we remember at the height of all this, how many services we were sometimes going to on a weekend?
I would say, even now, most weekends, I do 3 or 4 on average.
Okay.
Probably the most I've ever done on a weekend is 5.
Okay, all right. And one more question, because for a while, I should go back and do it again, but I played guitar at St. Teresa's Catholic Church here in Rapid City. And boy, I learned a lot about music. Number one, Catholic music is written by Jesuits who hate guitarists. It's all in B flat, which is a terrible key for a guitarist. But the other thing I noticed is I was so mentally busy with all the mass parts and the songs and whatever that mass seemed to take 15 minutes, and I kind of felt like I was sort of required to go again to actually attend Mass, like that one didn't count.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that ever?
All the time.
All the time.
And that's sort of the bonus of like doing 5 masses
Sure.
in a weekend. I figure at least I'll pick up bits and pieces.
You might hear one sermon out of
Yes.
the whole thing. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So, back to, so things keep going, I was going to say spiraling. That's the wrong word. A spiral is a bad thing. Yeah. But they keep expanding. That's the word I was looking for. Expanding. And so you're singing at a bunch of churches and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What else happened?
You know, as with anything, it's all, you know, ebbs and
Sure.
flows. So
Right.
it's not just I mean, there are lots of things. I also, at least before COVID, sang with a semi-professional community choir. I
Okay.
say semi-professional in that about half the people in the choir are also professional singers.
Okay.
And we have occasionally done gigs that we got paid for.
Oh, sure.
But mostly it's just a big community choir.
Right.
But
Mhm.
that's a place, like, that's really for my own soul because we get to sing wonderful music.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, singing church music is great in a lot of ways, but
Right.
it's not musically challenging.
No. After you've done it that long. Anyways.
Right, yeah.
Sure. You know all the parts. And
Yes.
everything. Yeah. And it's a limited subject set as well. It's a lot about Jesus.
Yeah, a
and
lot of
We
Jesus.
don't sing about other stuff.
Right.
You know. Yeah. I understand that. And then we do need to talk about COVID because that certainly has impacted your life, I bet.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
I would say, interestingly, I kept one of my church jobs during COVID.
Okay.
And that was great because it was just like, okay, now I have a place to go, you know, every week, a reason to get out of my apartment.
Right. Yeah.
And it really helped pay the bills as
Right,
we kept going. But like the big choir that I'm in, we're actually hopefully starting up next week. So that'll be the first time we've sung together in 2 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what does the big choir do?
We do a lot of different stuff. Mostly, it sort of varies.
Okay.
One of the things that this choir particularly likes to do is premiere new music. So we have a lot of members of our choir who are young composers. So trying to like encourage young composers.
Okay.
And it's one of the things like you might not think about, but especially like a composer of choral music,
Right.
it's really hard to get your music performed because you need a choir,
You do need a choir.
which is hard to find.
And
in a
also
big
an
choir.
audience.
Right.
Yeah, sure. So you sing a lot of new pieces in
Yeah.
this group.
Yeah.
Okay.
We end up doing that. Although I think this next concert is going to be all Renaissance music, so lots of old music.
Oh wow. Oh neat. Will it be in English? That's a great question. How often do you have to sing in other languages?
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah, I would say English is actually my least favorite language to sing in.
Really?
Yes.
Do you most of the time sing in the other languages phonetically, or do you know what you're singing about?
I would say mostly phonetically.
Okay.
I like French and Spanish. I can usually kind of know
Right.
what it's about, just from singing a lot of Latin.
Right.
I kind of get to know the major themes.
Sure. Right. Again, mostly at church, so it's
Yes.
going to be a lot about Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. You did, before the show started, I asked you if you were the singer who did the ethereal part in movies when somebody got beheaded or when there was a car crash or something terrible happened. And you said you were accidentally in one movie.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about accidentally.
So, I don't know if you remember, I believe it was 2016 when it came out, the movie Get Out by the director Jordan Peele. And the movie, it's a horror movie, but it's also sort of analogy for racism against Black people in America.
Okay, all right.
So, as you can imagine, a movie about Black people, they wanted to have, like, Black people working on the movie. And
I see a problem here.
yes.
Yeah.
Before the movie came out, the person who ended up doing all the orchestration and the scoring for the movie, who's the composer, he wanted to do a demo to take to the studio and be like, here's what my idea for the movie, please hire me for this job.
Okay.
So, but it was a choral thing he had in mind, so he needed to hire some singers. So he hired a bunch of singers to do this, and they were all black singers.
Okay.
And one of them dropped out at the last minute. So the person who was the actual vocal contractor was somebody I had worked with before, and I have no idea how far down the list I was, but he texted me and was like, hey, can you be here to do this thing tomorrow? And I was like, sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So I, showed up into this thing. So I wasn't supposed to be there, and it was just supposed to be a demo, but then they ended up using the demo in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
2016 was a very interesting year for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I missed that movie, but I'll try and see it now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good movie, not biased or anything, but
Remind me one more time what it's called.
Get Out.
Get Out. Everybody go watch the movie Get Out.
Yes. My name is in the credits. It's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what else do we have to talk about here? This is a gear show. You said you have a microphone in your home studio. Can you tell us about your microphone?
I know it's Golden Age Project
Okay.
condenser microphone.
All right.
My little brother, as I said, who knows all of these things,
Right.
was the one who picked it out for me.
Okay. All right.
So it's one of those things where I don't know a lot about
Right.
that, but I can also tell, before that I just had a USB microphone that I plugged into my computer. I was like,
Okay.
this is fine, and then it gets me the new microphone.
Right.
It's like, oh,
This is much different.
it's much different.
We can get nerdier. Yeah. Did he also buy you like a Focusrite 2i2, a little red box to plug your microphone into?
No, he gave me, I have a really old M-Box. So I have an ancient version of Pro Tools on an ancient laptop that I
Wow.
can't get rid of because it's the only thing that'll run my ancient version of Pro Tools.
I'm so glad I asked that question. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? Any upcoming projects this year that you can think of? Do we need to follow you on any social medias or anything?
I'm terribly not on
Right.
social media.
Right.
After when COVID hit and people started getting crazy on social media, I was like, oh, this is not adding joy to my life, so
Right.
I left.
You just, yeah. And you're a choral singer in groups and churches, so
Yes.
you're not necessarily promoting yourself as
Yeah.
an artist. Okay. But you have big plans for 2022 or good things are going to happen?
I'm really excited about this choir starting back
Okay,
up.
sure,
I think
yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Could we listen to them from South Dakota?
Yes. So the choir is called Los Robles Master Chorale,
Okay.
and it's losroblesmasterchorale.com.
Okay.
I know on the website there is the last concert we did, March 2020, is posted in its entirety there. I had a huge solo in that one.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Singing in, what was it, Farsi maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, so.
No clue what that means, but I'm sure it was great. Is it on YouTube as well?
Probably.
Okay. All right. Go watch that, everybody.
Yes.
I hope you have a wonderful year.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, from Perfect Wave Productions, thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you. Safe travels back to LA.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to say what you suggested. Katie Olsen says, remember to hydrate.
Yes, it's so important.
It's so important. That's water?
It's tea.
It's tea. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. From Perfect Wave, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Jay, Steve, and Scott. I'll see you next week.